Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is Creative Craving, and we are back with some more Rust. Here we are editing our app, and we still need to get the trigger command working. And if you recall from last time, we had trouble here getting triggering the world. We had trouble with mutable state, and I think part of the problem is the way this trigger method is structured. If we look at trigger, we're passing in two mutable things, the world and the room. The problem is the room inevitably is going to be a reference to the world. So really, I just realized one way to change this that might work would be to pass in just the world and the room number, like which room we're in, the room ID. And then let us pull the room from the world. That might work. We should try that. There's no guarantee it'll work, but we should at least try it. So let's try that. Go back here, and instead we'll call it room ID, and we'll just take a room ID. Here we go. We just need a reference to it. Here's the issue: is we're having we need to change that here as well. Oh boy, we got to go deep in here, don't we? Let's just do it here. Here we go. Okay, self.getValue. Again, we need to do the same thing. Yeah, okay, this is going to require a major rewrite here of our stuff. This is stuff we did in silence the other day, though, so I guess I'm paying my dues. Well, let's go back and see where we're using this. I feel like our whole API here is a bit off. It's a bit wrong. Let's look at state effect again. We've got observe and modify. Okay. Well, observe can stay here. There's nothing really that needs to change here because it works fine. But modify, I feel like we're not modifying the state effect. We're modifying the world or the room based on the state effect. So I think what we need to do probably is to move the modify out. Let me just double check here. What all goes on here? You see here. Oh, now this is something interesting. The only thing that really needs to be mutated, the only mutation that needs to happen is for state effect, at least at the moment. For other interaction types, no mutation happens. Yeah, and I don't like having to move this inside the world. Like we talked about yesterday, what we talked about yesterday was moving the implementation. Let's get rid of AI for now. Moving the implementation of trigger from the interaction trait to the world trait to implement it against the world. Yeah, so we could make this a world method instead of a. But the problem is, I don't like the idea of having to deeply inspect the interaction type or the interaction. Yeah, this thing. I don't like having to deeply inspect that in the world. I feel like that's a little bit wrong. I mean, it would work fine. It just feels wrong to have to do all this because this is kind of low-level interaction-specific stuff, right? Well, you can also look at it as world-specific stuff. We are messing with the world, right? Yeah. Yeah, okay, so we could rewrite this in terms of the world, and it would be fine. Yeah. So we need to replace the modify, though. That has me a bit concerned. I guess I could have a modify on the world and on a room. So I could split it out that way. Okay, I feel like we're just doing things wrong. Okay, so let's look at get value. What are we doing? We're getting world.state. I feel like the correct place to put this sort of stuff, the modify, I think the correct place to put it is on the actual state. So let's look at that. It's a state, which is defined here. Okay, so this is where we need that. Yeah. So I think the first thing to do is to add an implementation, add some methods for state. Yeah, I just want to, my goal here is just to simplify things to the point where I can understand them better. Can we v-split this? I think we can. We can close that. Here we go. So we got the state here, and here's our modify. We want to add modify to state. Okay. We don't need to grab the world in the room because we already have a state object, see, at this point. Okay, get value. We need to combine these, though. We have our state, and then we grab the variable from itself. Okay, I don't even know what arguments to pass in here. That's the problem I'm having. Modify. What arguments do we need to pass in? Well, we need to pass in a state effect. I think that's it. And we are going to mutate self. Now this seems more right. We're mutating self. I think that's a good sign for what's going on here. And we need a reference to the state effect. We'll just call it effect. And we want a reference to it. We don't want to destroy it. Okay, we're not returning anything. Okay, yeah, I think we just had the wrong abstraction here. So yeah, I remember when I wrote this, I was a little bit disappointed afterward because I wrote this mostly in silence while you guys were watching a couple streams ago, and I thought, man, I really should have talked about this more. I should have explained what I was doing, but now here's my chance, right? Now at this point, at this level inside the state, we don't need to worry about locality because we've already got the state. So that's going to happen outside of this modify function. And, whoa, that's complicated. We do need, okay, so when we're modifying, we get the current value from the state, okay, and then it looks like do we use self at all? Oh, we do. Okay, self.default state. Weirdly, we also have a default value. I don't think we need to mess with default value in both places. Well, default state. Okay, I think this means something different. State.contains key. Yeah. Let's look at default state. This is a value. I feel like default value is a better name for this. A much better name. But before we go any further, I need to just pay attention. What do we have to commit? Because I remember last time, yeah, when we left off, we had not committed everything. Let's see. Yeah, we have some changes here that I don't want to... Right. Here's the main thing we got done was we fixed the static world. We're not making any changes in this file, but here, bug, let's not call that static world. No. Let's go back to main. Where's static world? Immutable, wait, world copy. Just call it what it is. Yes. Oh boy. Bug, I think our next series is going to be fixing Vim. It'll be a very boring one. Unless you all use Vim, or Nix, or both. Alright. So, static world. Replace static world with an always up to date world copy. We need to print out, wait. Let's describe the bug. We're fixing a bug. Bug, printing out the same static world every time through the loop. Need a comma there. World copy, which we update inside the loop. There we go. Ignore changes here. We're going to implement, actually no. We did implement user command inspect. Nothing much to say. The rest I don't care so much about. Let's double check. Yeah, the only changes I've made are, in here there's nothing to talk about. Down here, yeah, we got some code here, but this code isn't going to work. And like the immutable copy, hopefully we don't have to do that anymore. Like all this is going to have to change, so I'm not so worried about that. Now, one thing on our to-do list is going to be to types replace vec with hash map everywhere I can. Yeah. In this game, we need to do a lot of searching for the right item, and we don't need to be searching in a vec. It's just way easier to do in a hash map, and it's going to be more performant as well. So, yeah. Oopsie daisy, spilling my water. Okay, so where were we? Let's go back to here. Okay, we're creating the modify function. We want to modify self based on this effect. Instead of calling it modify, why don't I call it apply effect? Right, that's a little easier to understand for me. Okay, this part we won't have to do. Current value we already have, it's inside there, we'll get to that later. Default value. I think this was misnamed. Right. So one thing I do want to do before I go on is find default state and replace it with default value. We'll do that later. I don't want to confuse myself because we're using default value to mean something different here. I want to wait till we rate the code first. Okay, self.mapping.values.next.unwrap. We'll just call this first. First mapping result. There we go. We just picked that one around. Yeah, let's go ahead and rename it now. I feel good about it. Default value. Now let's see where we're having to change. Not there. Yes. Not there, but here. Default value, first mapping result. First mapping result. That's why those two lines changed. Okay. Yep. No, we don't need that. Nope. There we go. Okay, so now here we are in parse world. Let's go to parse world and fix that up. Parse world. Oh, parse. Because I guarantee we can fix that default state. Where's this come from? Default value. Let's rename it here. Perfect, and it knew what I wanted down there. Great. Nope. No. Yes. Yes. Great. Rename default state default value. Make sure it still builds. Okay, and it builds like that. Let's get our changes out. Let's pop our changes off the stack. There we go. Good. Now let's get rid of the parser. We don't need that anymore. We don't need parser test. Main can come back later. Same with this. Okay, great. Okay, layout. We got several things in our to-do list, but we're tackling the hard one, it looks like. Yeah, here we go. This is what we're tackling next. So I just remembered we have the validation function we need to write as well to get that because our story file doesn't work yet. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't have a name for any of the interactions actually, because we forgot to add that. Now let's close up observe. Now we want to, okay, we grab this from the state effect. That's something we'll have to do. Not self, effect. Okay. I guess if the effect doesn't have a mapping, then we can return, actually. Yeah, if there are no values in this, then we can return. But again, we're going to change this to a hash map at some point. Isn't it already, though? Yeah, it is already. Yeah. Let's do a better job of this. Let's comment this part out and move it. And we're not going to call this first mapping result yet. Let first mapping result equal ... What am I going to call it, though? It's not a value. Not yet. Let temp and some oh, here we go. What is this mapping a mapping of? Let's figure that out real quick. State map, value effect. It's a mapping of effects. Okay. Some effect. Right. Oh, I just realized that's not going to work there unless we don't need that anymore. State effect. Let's just... yeah, we have problems with naming our things because we have an effect inside of a state effect, so we're having trouble here. Else, need a semicolon there. Return. If there is no effect, if there are no effects available in our mapping, then nothing can change by definition. So we just leave it alone. So that's the idea here. Let first mapping, which is going to be a value, be effect.unwrap. There we go. Oh, we don't need to unwrap. That was the whole point. There we go. Okay, so now we got to it safely, right? Instead of panicking as we unwrap this, we're going to return. Okay. And then next value is going to be mapping.get current value. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and for the purposes of getting this right, for the purposes of understanding, I'm going to do this. Self dot what? Oh, wait. Why are we doing this on state? Oh, yeah, it's a variable. Right. State.get get mute, actually, because we're trying to mutate it. Well, we could insert instead of mutating. I don't know. The way we're doing things, I'm not going to get mute yet. .get state effect. No. Dot variable label. Okay. Or I need to remember how to map things. Option. Returns the option if it contains a value, otherwise returns the second option. That's not what we want. Or else maybe. No, okay, let's just stick with what we know, I think. What's this OK or? It returns a result. OK or else. Or else. We've already looked at all those. Okay, we're just going to do the same technique we did before. Let sum current value equal this, else return. What's this? Mismatch types, expected reference. Okay, that's fine. We can make it a reference. But I thought it was already. I know this is a reference to a state effect. I thought this would also pass through as a reference, but whatever. No problem. So now we have our current value and we have our effect. Okay. Now the next thing we need to do is get next value to come over. Now we're just going to copy this over. It's going to be wrong. This needs to be state effect dot mapping dot get current value, okay, or this. What's the problem here? Current value is all expected in I32 found variable. Okay, let's just change it up a little bit. Current value, dot value. I think we need an ampersand there. There we go. I think the thing that's going to work here is let current value, we're going to leave it like this, actually. Let's just rename it to current. Yeah, current.value. Perfect. That works fine for me. And we are going to get mute here in a second. Next value. And here we're checking if it contains it, but we don't have to do that anymore. Whoops, we already have done that at this point. So now all we've got to do is current.value equals next value. And then we have to get mute. Perfect. Perfect. Everything's orderly there and works fine. I think I like this implementation way better than this one. The only thing I don't like about it is we are ignoring the locality of the state effect. But at this point, the locality has to have been determined already. So I kind of don't like that. It feels like almost like locality should maybe locality should contain a state effect so that we can't ignore it. Maybe that's the way we should do it. And instead of calling it locality, we call it localized effect. I don't know. I don't want to mess with that much right now. But I do feel like this is written and this is good. It's good enough for sure. Is this going to build? Probably not. It's going to fail on something. Yeah, it's going to fail on something unrelated, which is. Let's change this stuff back. Actually, get checkout patch. Change that back, and then we're done. Okay, it builds now. Now we've moved modify over here to apply effect, which I've lost it now. Right, so now what do we do with modify? Modify lives on a state effect. I don't think we need that, and also we don't need get value. Although I'm not going to mess with observe just yet. I do feel like observe belongs here too, but it's less critical at the moment. Yeah. Now we just need a path down to it for modifying the state. Now, what we need to do then, because this state is a member of the world and it's a member of the room, we need to put our next. Here, let's look for it. Yeah. Hang on, modify. Let's get things where we can see them. Okay, let's split. Oh, whoops, we can only split 2 times. Just once is fine. And then, okay, we've got apply effect and we got modify. Great. Wow, it's taken us a whole hour to get this far. Just about. That's fine though. We got time. We got time to, and this is some difficult stuff to try to understand, so it's good to take our time and get it right. Now in the world we want to implement a modify as well. Pub function. Do we want to call it? Yeah, we'll call it apply effect actually. It makes sense. And mute self. And then we have state effect. State effect. There we go. Now the first thing we need to do is check the locality. Here's one thing I don't like. We have to pass in the room ID because otherwise we don't know which room. You could pass in the player ID and say apply this at the player's location, but we don't necessarily know which player. So let's just pass in the room ID. Yeah, okay, yeah. Okay. We need that as a potential thing. Now, switch, oh wait, match, state effect dot locality. Fill those match arms, baby. We'll put world first because that's going to be the easiest. Well, is it? Let's do room first. So first thing I'm going to do is just get a reference. Let ref mute room equal self dot get, and let's do sum self dot rooms, oops daisy, get mute room ID, else return. If there's no room there, then we just ignore that problem. Okay, there are lots of issues going on here. Expected semicolon. This is weird. Okay, let's get rid of the ref mute for now. This all works. Oh, maybe I need ref mute here. Maybe that's how it works. Okay. And then we're going to do room.applyEffect. State effect. Okay. Now we're not going to worry about that error yet because I think AI can help us fix it, but only if we give it an example. For the world, the way we apply effects is we get world.state apply effect state effect. Oh, self.state. I wonder why I was getting 0 autocomplete. Okay. So I'm just going to tell AI to fix this. Let's see if it can do it. Create a room apply effect method which works similarly to world apply effect. Can it do that much on its own? We'll find out. Should be pretty simple for it to figure out. We'll see. And the only thing I'm concerned about is, will it try to recur? Like here, if we can't, you know, will it try to get something more specific, or will it just figure out it just needs to do one case, only needs to do this side? It probably will check locality, to be quite honest with you. Yeah, I'm realizing now that locality should contain the effect. I think we need to rename all these things and like restructure just a little bit. We could call it localized effect, right? That's something we could call it. And why is it going to read everything before it does anything? This is kind of frustrating. Like, it didn't have to do with any... You could have just looked at this file and that's all you need. Maybe you need to open the interaction file, but those are literally the only 2 files you need to open. Okay, I don't think we really necessarily needed that. Let's see. Yeah, okay, yeah. Keep. But you can see here, where it has this locality world, this shows us we made a mistake in our types. The fact that I've already narrowed down what it's supposed to do, and it's like I have to still safeguard against that. That shows we should be passing an inner type instead of passing something that has locality. So that's something on our to-do list. Honestly, it's less important than fixing Vex, though. Store state effect inside of locality. If someone has access to a state effect, they can then assume the locality has already been dealt with. Yes, that's what we want. Also rename locality, state effect, and effect to have distinct and useful names. Yay. You know, there's some, when I have this localities, when I have state effect and effect, I feel like there's some sort of underlying principle that I'm just missing. I know that if I did some research for, like, let's say several months, I could find, I don't know how long it would take. I'm sure there's something, oh good, it builds. There's something here I can do to help me. There's something I'm missing about this, is what I'm thinking. Like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, okay. Oh, okay. Anyway. Why is it got to do? Oh, that's the trigger, right? Okay. Like, there's some sort of idea that I'm describing. I'm trying to describe with the word state effect and the word effect. It's some sort of principle. If I could find that idea, I could just use the real names for it. But I feel like I'm just coming up with a homegrown name for something pretty common and pretty. Does this have to do with finite automata, whatever it's called? Does it have to do with state machines? Finite automata. Yeah, abstract machines used in computer science to recognize patterns in input sequences. That's not quite what we're talking about. Okay, so it's not that. It's a finite state machine, I think. Mathematical model of computation. Yeah, this is really what it is. And see, when you talk about a mathematical model of computation, well, it describes a programming language, so it kind of fits. Change from one state to another is called a transition. Okay, so instead of calling it an effect, we could call it a transition. That just uses more words with no benefit, though. I guess what we really need to call it, if you think about it, we should call it a transition holder, and a transition holder. Obviously, that's the right name. All right, we'll figure that out later. Okay, so naming things is hard. Now, we have the room in the world set up to where we can apply effects, and additionally, if we go to the world and hit apply effect, it's just going to work properly. So at this point, I don't feel like I need... What does trigger do? Let's go back and look at trigger. Right here. I don't think I need that anymore. Okay. State effect, item creator. Okay, this is the part... Yeah, okay, so what if I do this? Let's make the smallest change that works. All right. Now in this case, we want to do world.apply effect. Now where's our effect? Oh, we don't know. I've got room ID, but where's my effect? It's part of this interaction, right? Oh, it's right here, S. Okay. Great, that type checks. Can I use it in main? Let's try that. Okay. User command trigger. Right here, instead of to do, we're going to try interact dot trigger world, and instead of room, we're going to have loc. I bet this is going to fail in a surmountable way. That's my intuition. Okay, loc is consider dereferencing. Sure. And it's going to say consider cloning, which I'll be fine with. Oh, but you know what? It should be, honestly, it needs to be a reference to a room ID, right? Yeah, okay, here we go. We got a reference there anyway. Problem here is, can't borrow world is mutable more than once. Second mutable borrow occurs here. Now, my theory is that now that we've changed things around, this should be a little bit easier to fix. Why? Because when we were passing world and room in together, we were passing the world mutably twice into the same function. Okay, we get our player on line 32. Wait, what? Right here, get our player. We do need loc in this. Okay, what if I do this? What if I do loc.clone? Will that fix it? Why not? What? Oh. Okay, we're getting the same issue. What if I do this? Okay, am I modifying loc anywhere? That's what I want to know. I think I am, actually. Well, if you look, the only place I'm using loc here, here we're modifying it. What if we just change this to player.location and we get rid of loc in this case? Why does that not work? Okay. That's fine. I want to get to where loc is immutable. Actually, let me do it this way. Loc is going to be immutable. So let's see, where are we mutating it? It doesn't look like we're mutating it anywhere now. Or if we are, we'll notice. So, will this work now? First borrow was used later. Okay, that's what I need to see. First borrow was used later here. Yeah, okay. So what we're going to do, instead of cloning down here, whoops. We're going to go back up to the top here. Let's close these because we don't need them right now. Go, close that as well, loc. Okay. Now this is going to be a clone. Because we do not need, like since we're not modifying it, actually it doesn't need to be a ref. Yeah. Okay, so that's going to cause issues here, but that's fine. That should be, okay, we need to borrow here, fine. That fixes our issue. Okay, now we just need to go through and make sure we're using loc correctly everywhere. We just need to add an ampersand basically to a lot of places. Okay. So things should be working now. Does it build? That's the main thing. Does it build? Look at that, it did. It builds. Alright, we spent about an hour on this, but we got it. Now, I want to start paying attention to some of these error messages. Some of these, variable does not need to be mutable. That's great. On line 131. Okay. What are we using room for? To make this. What are we using that for? Well, I don't think we need this anymore. Right? Oh no, we caused issues here. Interesting, we just caused issues. So first mutable borrow happens here. Second mutable borrow occurs here. So when we create the room, we're creating a mutable borrow. Okay, so undo. Let's just clone it from the start. That fixes it, great. I suppose we need to fix this unwrap though. Sum room equals we'll clone it first, yeah. That's fine. Else return. Does that get rid of our type error? It doesn't. Because why? We can't clone. Oh. You know, it's not worth it right now. We don't need to fix everything in one go. Oh no. That was a mistake. Okay, great. Now we got a room. It's coming together really well. Okay. Right, now the next thing we need to do is take some of these functions we're not using and get rid of them. Turns out we do need trigger, and I like this. We need trigger, it stays in the same spot. It's barely changed. I like that. We need to get rid of modify, because I don't think we're using it anywhere. Let's make sure. Well, let's just change it to private for now. I know we're using get value. It's already private. It builds fine. So that means we can get rid of modify. It's unused, see? All right. Now let's look at some of these warnings again. Unused, unused. This is in main. Okay, unused import. Fine. We're not directly touching that anymore. Now I think we can build without errors or without warnings. Sweet, no warnings. All right, this is good. Happy day. We did a lot in this change, so let's take it. Oh wow, what is that? Oh, I know what it is. No. What is this? Diff. Okay. Get DCW. Get diff cached. Get DW. What is going on here? Unknown option cached. What? Okay. It works completely fine over here. Okay. Something to do with the shell.nix, I'm sure. Let's not overthink it. Let's bring it in. Okay, that worked. I don't know why. I think it's... Who knows? Who knows? That's one of the things we need to fix, is like getting our state set up the way we want for development stuff. So, right. Let's commit the change, and we want to have... what do I want to say? Move. So what was it? It was modify existed on which type? Interaction? Yeah, interaction. To state effect. No, it wasn't state effect, was it? I think it was actually. Apply effect. State apply effect. Let's add that to the list, actually. We have locality, state, state effect, and effect. That's just garbage. We need to fix that. So, move interaction, modify to state apply effect. Refactor. There we go. Well, it's more than a simple refactor. Modify, transform. Interaction modify required mutably passing the world twice because you had to pass a mutable reference to a room of the world in addition to the world itself. There were other ways to solve this, but this way seems to provide a better API, in my opinion. Well, I don't have to say that. It's always in my opinion. That's always in effect. Okay, so It wasn't interaction trigger, was it? No. Let me change this again. Let's look at all the impulse. It was observe, right? Where was that? Observe. Right. It was state effect. Man, look at these names, state effect and state. Moves, transform, let's say. Okay. Add apply effect to world and room. Just say method so we know what we're talking about here. We know where it gets moved because it's a method. And then main. 2 changes in main. Replace. Really, everything we did in main could have been done separately, just about. Just about. That's okay. Replace, make loc an immutable copy instead of a mutable ref. Okay. Modify player.location directly instead of *loc. The rest is implied, and then finish trigger command. Okay, I think I should say this differently. Transform API to allow finishing the trigger command. Yeah, that's really what I should be saying. AKA, this is what we had to do to get that done. Okay, just a second, folks. I'll be right back. Okay, there's that. Man, I'm really happy with our progress here. Now, let's check that off and then move on to something else. Boom. Inventory command. I mean, that's a relatively simple one. Yep. I'm going to have AI do that one for me. Okay. Okay, we're going to have it like that. Implement the, we don't need 2 tabs here, we just need 1. Here we go. Implement the, in fact, let's close everything except for main, and then it can open things as it cares to. Here we go. I don't want to give extra context when we don't need it. Implement the inventory command. It should list out the player's inventory. Here we go. Okay. 2 of 2. What's 1 of 2? Okay, this looks good. Right. Okay, and we're modifying the storage directly. That's a bad sign. That's a sign our API doesn't have what it needs. So, but wait, don't I already have something? Oh, that's right. I had all this code implemented for storage. Storage. Wait, no. Types. I had all this code implemented for storage, but it's commented out because storage is no longer a hash map. Okay. Okay. So we need to do some inventory stuff too. Inventory. Overhaul. Rename max capacity to item slots. Here we go. We want to get away from the idea of capacity altogether. Change storage type from vec item to hash map item ID. Actually, it's item ID. Item ID to hash map item ID count. There we go. With a count type alias. Use usize or whatever. Actually, to be honest, we don't need to use usize. There's nothing tying us to it. Here we go. Allow infinite copies of each type of item, each item ID? Question mark? Sure. We'll get more detailed later, right? It's an MVP. At some point, we might want to limit the number of items you can have. Like, you can only, you know, maybe you can fit 1 chainsaw in your inventory, but 200 chainsaws, 3,000 chainsaws, probably not. It's unrealistic. But maybe what we'll do is implement weight later on. Like, where each item has weight and you just count the weight and say, oh, you're overweight. But that'll happen quite a bit later. Okay. Okay, now. Let's see. Well, first of all, does it build? Get rid of this for now. Yes, no warnings, great. It's a great place to be. Inventory. Your inventory is empty. Okay, it's really hard to see the stapler, or to see when it's on top of the room description. We're gonna have to figure that one out. So, take stapler. Inventory. You're carrying an ordinary stapler. Sounds good. And at some point I want to distinguish between the label and the description. Yeah, okay. Great. So now what I wanted to do was, well, we can't test trigger and we can't test because the file is wrong, right? It doesn't allow us to do that. Okay. Seems like inventory works. Add inventory command. Allow the user to abbreviate inventory command. Oh, I didn't specify how. Let's stop. As INV. I should allow it to abbreviate to any unambiguous shorthand, but yeah. Okay. Great. Suppose I should have just typed cargo run. Great. Okay. Quit. Oh, there is a quit command. Great. That wasn't spectacular. I thought it would be, so let's just amend. Right. I need a different format, though, if I'm going to accept any unambiguous prefix. I clearly need to handle things differently, but that's fine. Okay. I don't need to be in types right now. I need to be in here. Inventory. Right. Okay. Oh my goodness. This is crazy. Okay. Get user command. Command arg. Right? See, it's not a variable. I don't know why it says that. I think it's just confused because Rust Analyzer isn't working. I need to set up what I need to do is set up an environment with cursor and Rust Analyzer all in one area. So that's something I'm going to focus on probably in the next series. I might even do it sooner than that. My plan is to do a bunch of stuff here and then switch to that as my next project. But to be honest with you, it's limiting me here. So maybe I need to do it sooner. But it probably will take longer than I expect. So I have to think about that too. Anyway. Cohesive use of summarize. That sounds hard. Let's do it later. We did inventory. Great. In the sample game, add labels for interactions so we can target them. Right. Let's fix this. Let's add a validation function. So let's do this by hand, actually. Because there's a trick I want to do. Parse world. Yeah. Pub function parse. JSON string and str. And we're going to take the same result, paste it there. We're going to make some changes. Now, for parse world, well, I need a validate function, first of all. Pub function validate. Oh, no, I want to validate the world. Right. Validate world. Quite honestly, I should be validating every object, not just the world itself. Yeah. Okay. Let's do a struct. Pub struct validate world. Validate. Yeah, can't think of anything else to call it. Validate room. And it's going to be a function. Shouldn't this be a trait, actually? You know what? Yeah. Validate. Let's call this validate parse. And then it doesn't have anything except methods. Pub. No. Impl. Validate parse. Okay. Pub function. Validate world. Let's just call it world. Whoops. Let's call it world. Self. Honestly, it doesn't. Yeah, it needs self. Let's just say it needs self. Or does it? I don't know. We'll figure it out. It needs a world reference, and it's going to return. I feel like it should return a result. Result nothing, or it's either going to be okay. It's going to be string. No. Static string. There we go. What's our problem here? Oh, it needs to be implemented. To do. No more problems. Great. Problem here is we're not doing what we said we were going to do. Validate parse. Validate parse. Okay, we could change this to a, we honestly could change this to a trait at some point, but yeah, why don't we do that? We'll make this a trait. Pub trait validate parse. Okay, this is going to be v implements validate parse. I want to receive a v. Okay. Function world. Yeah, we're going to just copy this stuff here. Here we go. Perfect. And we're going to call this basic validation. Implement validate parse basic validation. Perfect. What's the problem? Expected type found a trait. You can add the dyn keyword if you want a trait object. Oh, wait. For basic validation. We don't need pub there, it's implied. Perfect. This is what we want. Function room interaction. What else? Player? There might be players, yeah. So, let's get rid of all this and then try implement missing members. Perfect. Now the default thing to do is going to be return OK. Perfect. Oh, actually, it doesn't need to be a world, it needs to be a room. And it needs to be an interaction. It needs to be a player. Room, interaction, player. Perfect. Those are the only things I can think to validate right now. I'm sure there'll be more, right? Huh. Yeah, we're going to have, yeah, this is going to be, actually, yeah, this is going to be our, this is all we're going to do for now. Now, what parse is going to do is going to call parse world with the JSON string and basic validation. No semicolon. We're going to return that value. Great. Now then, we'll just call it validate. Yeah, we don't need to call it validate parse. It's fine. Okay, great. Now we're just going to commit like this. Cargo build. Warning is unused. Yeah. Also, the names are bad. To be honest with you, I kind of like having the warning, but I'm going to get rid of it for now. We're not going to be using it the whole time. Yeah, we don't want to miss this. This function takes 2 arguments, but 1 was supplied. Oh, yeah, and our test function. Parser test. Basic validation. Perfect. Okay. Now, the error handling is going to be hard. But yeah. Argument number 2 is missing. Oh, that's in main, right. Here we're just going to say parse. We don't need parse world, we'll get rid of it. Perfect. We're getting there. Validate is unused. I think we're going to leave that one for now. Yes, yes, yes. Great. Okay, now simple as that, we have some parser validation. Add trait and you pass it to parse world. Great. Now I want to tell it to, I'm going to ask AI to fix it up now. In parse world, use anyhow to wrap errors from Serde JSON. Change the types of parse and parse world to match. Let's say change the return types. That's the first step we got to do. I really wish it would just call cargo to add the thing instead of trying to do it for itself, but whatever. You can just modify it, it's fine. Sure. At some point we'll have to upgrade, but anyway, we'll just use the version it's familiar with, I guess, for now. That looks good to me. That looks good. I don't know why we need that here, but whatevs. Okay, yeah, parser. Let's go back to parser. Where's our change? Okay, well that's whatever. That's funny. Cargo build. Okay, that works. Wait, what is it doing? That was strange. Very strange. I don't know, maybe it wasn't AI, maybe it was my keyboard. Let's just commit this. Change parser error type to anyhow. Let's see. Result. Turn type to anyhow result. Yeah, let's do that. Okay, now in parse world, whenever it constructs an object, it should call the appropriate validate routine. Let's see what it does here. Now you can see our basic validation, it doesn't include any state, but it's allowed to include state, so I think that's fine. Like some validation might be context sensitive, so we're going to just let it do its thing. Okay, now, what I'm expecting... Oh, you know what? Okay, yeah, we have a JSON world. Well, we are still constructing all the items, right? For every JSON room, we're doing things. Here we go, we have our rooms. Yeah, here we go. Be interesting to see what... Now, I would think it would make a change wherever rooms is used. Yeah, rooms.insert. Okay, that makes sense to me. So let's go through all of them. Let's go to the top first of all. Okay, I don't care about that one so much. What are we doing here? Why are we changing things? What was the problem with it before? Let's see. Let's see what it did. Yeah, I'm okay with that change. A reference to self. We probably should make it mutable references to self, but we'll cross that bridge in a second. Sure, yeah, that's an okay change. It's acceptable. Right. Okay, so here we're just validating it before we pass it back. That's smart. See, validate.interaction, and we pass an interaction. Yeah, okay. And here we're using anyhow to map it. Great. Validate room, we're mapping the air, great. Okay, now I know the easy way to map errors. Let world, we're validating the world as well, great. This seems all good. Now then, I did say I wanted this to be mutable, right? Let's try it. Okay, let's make it mutable here too. Does everything still build? Oh, it's not mutable. Mute V, is that how we do it? Perfect. Yep. Well, that's the one thing we don't want. Need to get my formatter working better. Okay. Parse world. Actually call the validation functions. Methods. Also change validate parse definition to allow mutating self. Perfect. Let's run a test and see, does the test succeed? It does. All these changes and it still succeeds. Now, we want to add some validation functions here. Okay, we need to add some tests for basic validation. Let's add some tests for basic validation in its own test file alongside our other tests. Oh wait, I forgot to specify what I wanted. Here's what I want to test. Okay, must validation must verify that interactions have a label. Okay. Interactions that rooms and interactions have a label. Also, players must have a name. There we go. That seems like a pretty simple set of tests to do. So let's let it do its thing. All right, now what else can we think about while it's doing that? I'm getting the validation thing just about squared away. So we got that part done. Replace vec with hash map. That's going to take some time. It's going to be fun, though. I should save that for next time. Cohesive use of summarize isn't going to be fun. That's going to require me to read some AI-generated code, to be quite honest with you. Also, I need to spend a lot of time dealing with the UX and making sure it's much easier to play the game. So, let's see. Okay, so it's making some changes here to make sure it passes the test, but I want to see it fail the test. Like, I don't want it to just pass the test. You know, I want to actually write it myself, to be quite frank with you. I want the existing code to fail the new test. I don't know why you want to, yeah. If it doesn't fail the test, then I'm sad. Okay, we got 3 failures. This is good. Keep all. Let's just stop. I don't know what you're doing. They failed. That's the important part. The new test failed. Now, okay, we only have 3 new tests, three test failures. That's good. And if we look at it, we're parsing from JSON. Okay. I mean, we can do it that way. I think we just need to call in our test, instead of parsing JSON, let's just construct the objects directly. These should be unit tests, not integration tests. We don't need to parse for these tests, right? Although, to be honest with you, that's a pretty good substitute for mocking. Although mocking's built in, like we can check. Like, we've got a parser here, like our validate parse method, this validate parse trait allows you to mutate whatever implements that you can mutate it. So that means, like, because it's mutable, it can track whether or not you called the method. It can track whether you called room or world or interaction, and it can even track how many times you called it. I don't know why it needs to run the tests. 3 of them failed. That's good. Let's stop. Let's stop there. I don't want it to do any extra cool, crazy stuff. Now let's keep all just so I can read it. Yes, this is nice. Yeah, great. Uh-huh. Okay, it has to be mutable, which is kind of a shame. If I take mute away, it fails, doesn't it? Yes, it does. Okay. Because even though basic validation doesn't mutate, this interface we have, this trait, says it can mutate. So, perfect. Okay, we need to validate state effects as well, as I can see. Yep. All right, so let's go ahead and add these tests first. Oh. Add failing test for validate parse. Actually, for basic validation, right. Can't really test the interface. All right, so now I want to have AI do some changes here. Add a validate parse method to validate state effects 2. Hopefully you can get this right. Now if we look here, we're constructing a state effect. Okay, yeah, there's nothing else we really have to, there's no deeper we have to go, I think. But to have an interaction, you have to have a state effect, right? So that's why. Oh, it chose to use state effect. It could have used item creator, but whatever. I mean, that's fine, right? And I want to see if it'll automatically add the test correctly, too. Let's see if it gets everything right, because I want something here that will fail the test, and then I also want a test. Let's see how much it does for me. All right, but we are going to finish up here in about 10 minutes, so thank you all for joining me on this journey. We have a working game. Well, let's see, how do I say this? We don't have a working game yet, but we have a working game runner, right? We have a working world runner, but our game has an error, and I kind of want to culminate. When I'm adding this validation stuff, I want to culminate in actually causing an error while I'm trying to parse the real file, and then fix the error in the file. Right? Because I want to catch these sorts of things. So that's the idea. Actually, I could have AI modify the file until it works. That would be cool. Just don't worry about it. Okay. I wonder if my current parse function is even able to pull a label out when it creates an interaction. I kind of wonder. Let's look for interaction. Okay, great. We're validating state effect. That's perfect. Let's see. Locality, mapping. We got our I type. Okay. Variable label. That's our state effect. Interaction right here. Overview label. Oh, we're pulling the description as a label. The summary is the default. Oh gosh, okay. We're using the word description there. We shouldn't be. So I think what I'll do is just change that to summary in the file. And then we'll fix up the label to match. Now, I don't know why it's running tests at this point. It should fail the test. Let's go back to the top. Let's see if it got everything right. Stop. It made a mistake. Undo this change. Undo this change. I got to be careful here. And interestingly, it got this one right. And it got it in the right position. Interaction, state effect, and then player. That makes sense. But unfortunately, it got this wrong. I want all the methods for basic validation to fail the unit tests while returning OK. Right, it just completely forgot about that. And the thing is, it did stuff outside the scope of what I wanted, because what it did was, it got everything right, presumably, and then it went and said, oh, can I pass the unit test? No, let me fix things until it passes. And that's some extra logic they've added in to try to make the AI more useful. But it's just not how I want to do things right now. This I like, because we're creating a state effect and we're testing it. Yes, before we move on. There's probably way more to test, and I would do this myself, but yeah, I couldn't do it with just, yeah. Okay, whatever. Let's undo this. Whoa. Let's go back, though. I'll do it by hand, because it clearly is not that helpful. It's not able to figure out what I want from life. There we go. All right, now let's review next file. I don't care about those. Why are we using RC? That's a problem. No, this is all wrong. We don't need to use RC in our tests. Also, you've added the new test to the wrong file and in the wrong format. Added test to the validation tests file in the same manner as the other tests there. All right, well, we are making significant progress on this. It's starting to slow down a little bit, but to be honest with you guys, like, this is way faster than I expected. Like, we've gotten so much done. It's really incredible. So, and I thought this would take 20 hours to get this far. So, really, I have no right to complain about this little tediousness. So yeah. Okay, hopefully it figures that out. Honestly, it probably would be quicker for me to write the test myself and try to wait for AI to do it, but it did pretty good at the other stuff, I guess. Sort of. Keep that change. Okay, we're not... Oh yeah, we don't need a ref cell either, yeah. My goodness, why in the world was it trying to add ref cell and RC to unit tests? I don't even want to know why, to be quite frank with you. Okay, two things happened here. First, it was able to successfully run the test, which means that everything built successfully. Second, we have 4 test failures. Okay, another thing that happened was it added an extra space at the bottom here, which I saw that. Yes, well. Add, validate, parse, state, effect method. I guess it's called that. Let's find out. Yes. I mean, it did pretty good. It got a lot of things right, but it just missed some obvious stuff. Okay, now, we want to get these tests to pass. And I want to do this by hand. Don't have a lot of time, though. I guess we'll do that next time. That'll be our follow-up. All right, thank you all for watching. And